Hello and welcome to the next episode of Two Girls Talk Transits. Today we're reviewing the astrology from May 31st through June 6th, and we're your host. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Kaylee.
So welcome back. We're going to wrap up May on May 31st on this Sunday with a full moon in Sagittarius. So we had three lunations in May. So this is like also our blue moon, our second full moon of this month. Because we had the full moon in Scorpio at the beginning of the month. But Sagittarius full moon is going to be a very different vibe than the full moon in Scorpio at the beginning of the month. For one, it is ruled by the exalted, powerful Jupiter in Cancer with Venus there in Cancer too. So like both of them, although not really in aspect, they're in both like strong positions. So it's supporting this full moon in a way, especially with the moon ruling Jupiter. So there's like that mutual reception. So
Hmm.
I do feel some linkage to that Cancer area, or as we know, like Cancer is our best placement for like I would say this week and next week. Next week it peaks. So this week we're building up to that like Venus Jupiter conjunction. So this full moon is probably speaking to that in some way. But for the most part, I like it. It's quieter. There's like a loose trine to Saturn. Maybe a little bit of a sextile to Pluto or so, but like Mars is out of the picture and Saturn is probably I don't know. I do think Saturn could disrupt this full moon a little bit, maybe speak to something that you're restraining on or holding back on, or maybe like clearing away a belief or a change or a mindset now that the planets are kind of slowing down. Yeah, we still have Mercury and Gemini, but not for long. And like it's just the sun in active Gemini, like Mars is in Taurus and Venus and Jupiter are in Cancer, like slower energy. So I wonder if this full moon, usually Sag is also like a really quick, adventurous, risk-taking energy. It's kind of like stepping back from that a bit with this trine to Saturn and like stabilizing almost.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that. I do think so too. Yeah, like it's a kind of it might be a release of like whatever we haven't um but it's just like a release of some sort of things that relates to this Cancer house too. I think like before we like welcome in some of those blessings of the Venus Jupiter conjunction, I think we do have some sort of release coming in, and it doesn't necessarily like releases don't always have to be like painful or drastic or this huge thing. Sometimes it can be a good release. That allows us to bring in like these good things, especially with the moon being in Sagittarius. That's like a more benefic moon. It's like lighter and like easier able to like metabolize than it would be if it were like a Scorpio moon or a Capricorn moon. It's like kind of this lighter welcomed release. So I think it's gonna be a good thing.
Yeah, there's something positive about this full moon for sure. I think we've been dealing with so much heavy Mars energy, just like,
Yeah.
that full moon in Scorpio was a really strong Mars. We had Mars in Aries for all of May. Yeah, we had a new moon in Taurus, but like Venus wasn't there to help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like this is the one time that we're getting some of that, like you said, benefic energy really prominent in this full moon. So I do think it is going to feel just lighter, just better. Like, okay, I am letting this go, or I am reaching the peak of this moment, but I'm accepting it and I'm happy and I'm like, it's time. Like it's
Mm.
just natural. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I could see that. We've already been feeling some of this like Cancer, Jupiter energy, or sorry, Venus Jupiter energy in Cancer with like Venus being there in general.
Right.
And we are having this kind of like build up in this area. So I do think it's like a continuation of that. I don't think it'll be anything new, is what I'm saying. Like, I think we will have felt, like this kind of pull for a while now. So I don't think anything that's coming up to be released is like anything new or like you're not expecting or like even wanting.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I will say though, this is the full moon. If you look at it, is squaring the nodes. So we're like right in between eclipse seasons right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, the end of this summer, we will start having eclipses. I think we'll have one in Leo, and
I
then we'll
think so
have one in
too.
Pisces.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know. Just think about that. Like that means generally when we have like lunation in between eclipse cycles, it does mean like, hey, you're stepping away from whatever was going on in the winter. So February and early March when we had that eclipse in Aquarius and Virgo, you
Hmm.
might have finally like wrapped up a lot of the winter drama, and like winter things and like dying down. And now you're just like, things are gonna be a little slower for a minute, and then we're gonna move into the next eclipse cycle.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's a really good point too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Nice. So next, moving forward, and this is actually crazy. Like I just always think it's crazy when like Mercury is moving so
Ugh,
quickly.
yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. I have it by hours. Let me change to days. So
It
this
will
actually
be,
happens on the first, but I think it's a little bit later in the day.
yeah.
There we go. So on the 1st of June, which is a Monday, we do have Mercury entering into Cancer. So we're moving from an air Mercury into a water Mercury. So just even with that transition, we're having like a Mercury that is very fast, is very like witty, is able to take in a lot of information. And when we move from air to water, we have this like slowness or this like, um, I heard like Kelly Surtees before I take some of her courses, but she describes like when you have a Mercury in a water sign, like it becomes almost mute, like it doesn't want to express itself as much anymore. So we have some of this happening with Mercury. Maybe you prioritize solitude a little bit more, or maybe you begin to communicate more with like body language or like more like emotional realms than like physically like speaking. Um, so it's definitely like a slowdown of Mercury in general. And I think this will also impact your Gemini and Virgo houses. You know, you have a slower energy welcoming in, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean that slower is bad. It's just you will start to, yeah, just slow down, or you things won't be moving as quickly, information won't be coming in as quickly. So yeah, I think we can expect some of that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Gemini season's really short and sweet, right? It lasted like 1 week.
It was, yeah, right?
It was like 1 week. And now the Gemini season is going to feel more like Cancer season. And unfortunately, Cancer season, Mercury is going to station retrograde at the end of Cancer. So we're going to have again a lot of like Mercury review in a water sign again. Um,
Mm, dang it.
I know,
Because we
but
had
that's
it
how
in
Mercury.
Pisces, yeah.
That's how Mercury retrogrades work. Is like I read a book on it. It's actually a really cool like cycle in astronomy. But like when we have Mercury retrogrades, you usually have them all in the same signs, or if they cross over signs, you have them all in the same crossover signs. So like if we have it in like we would have it crossover in Earth and Fire, but now we're having in this year they're all in water retrograde cycles. So
Interesting.
yeah. Um, so just the nature, and then
That
you can
is
think
true
about
though.
yeah,
Yeah,
you can
because we'll
think
have
about
one in the
it,
fall in
and it will
Scorpio.
be in Scorpio,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And so you can think about like in the weird way, all the Mercury retrograde cycles are linked for you to review everything in your water houses right now for this year. So now you're gonna do Cancer. But for this part, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna slow down Gemini season again. Like I said, like this June is just like it's more about receiving. It's less about doing. Like I just feel like the spring was so much about doing with all that cardinal energy, all those big shifts. Like, what can we do? And everything was direct. All the outer planets were direct, and we're not there anymore. And so like it's instead like this is more about like let's just reap the rewards and like slow down and receive or just like process everything we've already done and started. And that's like the mental load is more about like okay, I'm done doing and I'm just going to like act more on feelings or just see how things feel and respond instead of initiate.
I agree with that too. Yeah, because Cancer is like a very feminine energy. You know, it's yin and very receptive. So we do have a lot of that like receiving energy. So I think that from that perspective, it's also good. And I think that can place Mercury in a position of listening rather than putting out information. We're taking in a lot of things. We're very observant, which I think is also important because, as you mentioned, when we do have that retrograde, we are going to have to review whatever information it is that we receive during this cycle. So, I think just being observant. Um, and I do also find it interesting with like that conjunction coming up too, like how we will have to
Yeah.
review some of that. So,
Yeah, yeah. That will be much later. We're not even in the shadow period yet, but like that's just something to be thinking about. Like this Cancer piece is like the main story for June now, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, nice. Cool.
Right. So the next day on Tuesday, June 2nd, the sun, who is left in lonely Gemini now, um, is going to make a sextile to Saturn. And like again, this is like kind of speaking to the full moon where the moon was trining Saturn. There is something that we're again stabilizing or slowing down within our ego, the sun being the exalted ruler of Aries as well. Like again, all that big cardinal energy this winter, spring of earlier this year was very much ego driven. I think for a lot of us, we were all just going through changes for ourselves and like changes for our identity. And so this sextile to Saturn is like a good opportunity to like just stabilizes it or slows it down or maybe just slows you down because Mercury is now in Cancer. So like the Gemini energy is slowing down too. It's
Mm-hmm,
just like
mm-hmm.
let's just like soften into this and you're like the long-term plan or the long-term work is now making sense.
That's kind of what I was thinking too, like putting the brakes on some of that faster energy. I do think like as we're talking more about this week, it definitely seems like this like divine pause or like, this
Yeah,
really big slowdown. And I think that's kind of where this sextile is coming into play. Like, hey, I am really like putting the brakes on things. So,
yeah.
if you notice things like kind of slowing down in your life, know that it is purposeful and you know, um, we're not meant to like go, go, go all the time.
No, you have
Yes.
to integrate. You have to like pause for a moment and like see what happens when you did all that because like
Hmm.
in the day in manifesting, like time is the slowest dimension. So like you put all this energy out there with all this Aries stuff and now you just have to let things come to you.
Yeah, that is very true. Like you do reach, and in any
Yeah.
kind of project ever, any creative venture, you do reach like a point where you just have to like let it go. You have
Yeah.
to like release it into the world and then, just let it like do its thing. And that, might be some of this too, is like reaping some of the rewards. And it could be also like reaping some of the rewards of your work that you've done, the things that you've put out. That's very much like Sun sextiling Saturn is like, what have you done to like, bring back some of that energy. So yeah, I mean, this is nice, I think.
Yeah.
And you
Is
might, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it just was it's not anything big, but it's like it's just nice, like okay, I can it's like a permission slip to slow down?
For sure. I think also like if there's any kind of things that Leo season isn't super prominent, or not Leo season, but Leo energy isn't super prominent right now, but if you have been like trying to solidify something in the Leo house, this might be like a small win that comes in like, oh nice, like let's say like Leo's in your fifth house. um I just finished this art piece that I've been working on for like 2 months or 3 months or something. It's like this small little win that comes in, that like is signifying the end. Like Saturn can very much like signify the completion of something. So it can be like something gets completed.
Yeah. That would be yeah, that would be a nice little win there. Or just like something
Hmm.
gets more structured and solid in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If it's not like the completion, it can be just like solidifying it for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then last one we have is Mercury squares Neptune, and this is on Wednesday, which is interesting energy for a Wednesday, which is ruled by Mercury. So I think on this day in general, um, and it would be interesting actually to see like what the transits are after this. But I guess we don't have anything until the like end of the week because this is our final transit for this week, besides like lunar transits. But
Yeah.
yeah, just like sometimes I think with Mercury being in Cancer, I will say that there is an inclination or a predisposition to maybe being like more emotional about things.
Yeah.
And squaring Neptune is like getting carried away with your emotions. It's like, I've been like feeling all this stuff. It's like Mercury moves from the mental sphere to the emotional body when we move from Gemini to Cancer. So when we move into this emotional body, it's like, wow, I haven't actually slowed down enough to like think about all these things and like feel all these things. And now that I have the ability to like be with my emotions, now that things are slowing down, I'm really confused about what to do about my emotions, or I'm overwhelmed with my emotions, or, I'm swept away in my emotions. This is very much giving like just emotional heaviness or like confusion with like what to do with all of that. And I'm not saying that this is like an eternal damnation or anything. This is just like a moment in time, but it's like you could feel a bit of heaviness in the emotional body.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, I think a big part of this too is like just I feel like I've really noticed Neptune and Aries is like just people and like everyone in general, people and corporations and everything, just like when they believe something, they believe it. So like there's just no changing their mind on it. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
buying into a delusion so deeply that it almost becomes real or you make it real, like
Mm-hmm.
it's like that battle. It's like you have to fight for this belief sometimes. And so I could see like this Mercury squaring Neptune like just overly delusional and overly confident about some idea or some, conversation or some process or anything that's going on in your life. And you're just like, I know this to be true 110% to the fact, and like refusing to budge on it because it feels so true to you. But like
Mm-hmm.
the reality is probably not there. I don't know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's having these like beliefs that are based off of like personal experience or like your ego in some way, but we're not fact checking anymore, with like when
No.
Mercury would be in Gemini, we're fact checking, but now we're not. We're just like, you know what, that feels really right and true to me emotionally. I feel like that's true. So like going with that. Yeah.
It's a good point because like both with Aries and Cancer are very much like related to self or like your home if you do like modern astrology. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
like it could be like you're just having an experience that was really true for you and maybe it was really true for you, but it's not happening the same way to other people. And it's like not you're not having that reconciliation of those events or like, you're
Yeah.
not having that empathy because you're just so fixated on your experience. And
Yeah.
just be mindful, what you're saying today or what you're consuming and like, know that we're all under the influence of this and we're all probably a little blinded by our own like personal beliefs in that way.
For sure. One thing that I've really noticed with Neptune and Aries, and I think we've talked about it on this podcast before, is just like this. And I think it's because, I consume a lot of social media. Like I've got a lot of planets in my 11th house, so I'm just like there, you know. So I think too, like Neptune and Aries has been a lot about like amping people up, like with the media, getting people really emotionally activated with what they're saying on the internet, regardless if it's true or if it's not. Like, I've been hearing for weeks that like the US is going to run out of gas for people. And
Oh
while gas
yeah.
prices have went up, like I haven't seen that actually come to fruition. Like, knock on wood, I hope it doesn't. But that's like one big example of how like that can create a lot of fear for people and a lot of like panic. Like, oh my God, are we going to run out of gas? Like, am I not going to be able to get to work? Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to be able to get food? Like you just go on this like spiral because of what one person said,
Yeah.
with the media, which is very much Neptune. So it's like this, I think, can very much speak to the media too. So I would very much like tread lightly with what you said too. You said be careful like with what you consume. Um, Yeah, like I would tread lightly with that kind of stuff, with media related things on this day, because I think it can get you emotionally activated and not necessarily be true.
Yeah, I that's a really good point because yeah, this is just not an aspect for clarity at all.
Right.
Like no
Yeah.
matter what the situation is or no matter what it is, there's just this non-aspect for clarity. And
Right.
so yeah, you just need to be mindful of that and like wait for it to pass and then you can get a little bit more information. I'm sure when Mercury square Saturn next week, you'll be like very more clear about what was real and what was not.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that too. Yeah. We'll definitely move to a space of like more clarity later, but today's
Yeah,
not the day for it.
no.
Yeah. And don't make any
Uh,
crazy decisions about your like mercurial ruled houses. Like not a good time to do that.
yeah, not at all. Not at
Mm-mm.
all. Um, yeah, we don't have any other aspects for the rest of this week, but the moon will just be moving through Aquarius. So yeah, it will square Mars at one point. I don't know. You just want to bump it a day.
Yeah, I can.
Uh,
It'll square
yeah, there it is, right
Mars.
there on
Yeah.
Friday. So yeah, so
Hmm.
like Friday morning, the moon will square Mars. That will be like one like challenging thing that will come up or like you have to deal with or frustration or something. But then yeah, the moon won't be making too many other aspects, but just that moon squared Mars day, I think will be kind of telling you a little bit more too about like Mars and Taurus and any challenges you've had there, or maybe any aftershocks from like the Mars square Pluto previous week.
Hmm. That's what I'm thinking too, like a
Yeah,
continuation of that. I do think that there's like a
yeah.
conflict between those two houses right now, Taurus and Aquarius. So I think that some of that will be playing out as well.
Yeah, that will New Moon will play out to that at the end of the week, I think. So, just know
Yeah.
that. But I think for the most part, it'll be quieter. So that's the main thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is overall like a good week, and we'll have the exact Venus Jupiter conjunction next week, and that will be something to look forward to.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. If you want more content from us, we're on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Two Girls Talk Transits, and we'll see y'all next week.
See you.
Bye.